Good morning, listeners and viewers. Welcome to a new episode of Rendez-vous with Murielle, the podcast to inspire you to go for your dreams so you can become magnetic to people, opportunities, and the magic of life. Today, I have the pleasure to interview Kevin Dunlap, who is also living in Las Vegas like me. And I've met in several occasions in the various business networking and circles. Kevin is a two-time self-published author, most recently the author of the book Designing Your Own Destiny. He has done extensive work in the personal development and business development industries. He's currently working as a business and entrepreneur coach, where he helps people become focused on figuring out what they want to do with their lives. He has also, as we do here, a weekly podcast called Life's Little Lessons, where he interviews other entrepreneurs on their successes, challenges, and biggest failure. Good morning, Kevin. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing well, and thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I've seen in your bio, because I just read an extract here for our listeners, that you have a very broad background. You were in the military and you lived in other countries. I would love if you could tell us your story when you decided to go on this journey of being a business and entrepreneur coach, and what made you decide to do that.
Well, I've been self-employed since, I would say since 2004, ever since I moved to Las Vegas, which was January 2004. Before that, I got downsized in 1999. And I was working on a project, and some of you guys have been around long enough to actually remember this, but I was working on a project known as Y2K, which was the whole big year 2000 scare. Yeah. And I was a subcontractor at a bank, and then after taking a 2-week vacation in June to go to actually school how to be a stunt person, how to be a stuntman, I came back and was downsized, and they even said, well, you didn't earn your 2 weeks vacation, therefore we're taking 1 week of your vacation out of your pay, and since we pay you 2 weeks early, we're letting you go. So there's no severance package, and we're letting you go. And that left a very, very poor taste in my mouth. And I had since this was like July 1999. Since then, I've never worked full time for anybody since then. Now, for the next couple of years, I was a beach bartender. I also was a college math teacher. So I did work part-time jobs, but I did not work any full-time jobs. And then in January 2004, when I moved to Vegas, I have not worked a full-time job or even a part-time job since then. So that's 17 years of being an entrepreneur. And after doing a lot of stuff in 2010, when I started doing a lot of stuff in the personal growth and personal development industries, is when I took my first live class. Now, I'd already been listening to Tony Robbins. I'd already been listening to stuff, but this was my first live actual class that I went to. And since then, I've taken multitude of different courses. As you mentioned, I was also ex-military. I just spent nearly 5 years in the U.S. Navy, 4 of which was stationed overseas in Japan on 2 different ships. So I not only got to live amongst other cultures, where me as a white male, I was the minority. I did not speak their language. When I was in Japan, that is predominantly Buddhism. So Christianity isn't even the dominant religious style. So by being immersed in other cultures, it really, in my opinion, it really opened up my eyes as to how other people live. And because of that, it's allowed me now as a coach to use those experiences of not taking things for granted, and saying, okay, just because somebody is either a different color or age or whatever than I am, I cannot really make those biased opinions on those people without actually getting to know them. So it's kind of like working with a blank slate every single time I take on a new client, because I don't want to take anything for granted.
And that's marvelous because you can really connect with the richness of the human being that you have in front of you. It's beautiful. Um,
Well, absolutely. I mean, like, I have two very, very close friends of mine, and one of them is my accountability partner. And the one friend has been my friend since October 2000. What year was that? October 2010. So for 7 years, and this person happens to be a female, a white female, that she lives about 4.5, 5 hours from here in Sedona, Arizona. My
oh,
other close friend, she's been, I would say, been my other best friend. We've been friends for probably about 3.5 years, and she's number one. She lives in Vancouver, Canada, so she lives in another country, and she's Indian. So my I mean, so therefore, like my friend in Sedona, we talk more about relationships, while my friend in Canada, we talk more about business. So it's kind of funny. I have both of my personalities. I have a friend to match that, and I love having that. The fact that I have friends from other cultures. I mean, even here in Vegas, I've got a few other very close friends. She happens to be Russian. The other one is Russian Turkmenistan. Another coaching client that I talk to every once in a while, she's Israeli that lives in California. So I love having this diverse set of cultures that I surround myself with. So it's just very unique, not always being around the same type of mindset of people. Just, when I talk with my friend, her name is Noah, that's the Israeli. She's very, very direct.
oh
I
yeah.
mean, almost to the point where us as Americans would say, not as Americans, as us as a white male, I would almost say that's almost offensive. But the thing is, she's just getting to the point. Instead of beating around the bush, she's just so like, okay, well, it would take me 10 minutes to explain. She does it in 30 seconds. Like, okay.
That's
So
funny because I lived in Israel for 10 years, so I had to develop that direct way of expressing, and you don't waste time with all the stuff around. And sometimes when I speak to people here, I really have to watch myself because I'm perceived as rude because I
mhm.
directly go to the point, and it is very different, but it's helping me because I waste less time, especially my relationships, where I directly go to the essential to know, because I'm very selective about the people that I invite in my life. At this point of my life, I let only positive people, only people who are where I am at the level of energy and thought where I am. And it helps me sort and see who I'm dealing with. But that's true, it can be perceived as abrasive or something.
I- in the general culture of, let's say, of America now, in Europe or in Israel, it's perfectly normal. So it's not seen that way.
Yes,
So
yes, yes, true. Uh, so you coach people on business, but I'm sure that as you go about coaching them on business, it affects all the areas of their lives, because that's what I see. I coach people on love, mostly self-love, and it ripples into all the other areas and everything is mixed. Do you encounter a lot of personal blocks that have nothing to do with business when you coach people on business?
Of course, I mean, it's all interrelated because it still goes back to who your core self is. And that's why I love my two friends, Nicole and Sedona and Junita up in Canada, is when I'm talking to Nicole, I mean, I talk very little bit about business. While I'm talking to Junita, I know she's got a boyfriend. We've talked I mean, I would say less than 5% of our conversations are on that. So, we're in this, and I do actually see my conversations with both those people, because sometimes I'll call Nicole, and the 30 minutes after that call, I'm talking to Janina, and I'm wearing a different kind of a hat, but I do notice what is it that I share with these people, and and I do notice how a lot of this stuff is interconnected. So absolutely.
And in your personal experience with your business, I always say my business is a spiritual journey because I tend to work to exhaustion, and then my bodies will shut me down literally, and I have to stop. So I always have to work on being balanced and, all the other aspects of running a business. So it really, really makes me grow on a personal and spiritual level. Do you experience that too, that when you started a business, all the things that were not serving you and were not in balance came up to the surface?
Well, of course. I mean, the theory is to lead a balanced life, and that's what people try to do. But in my opinion, balance is impossible. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just impossible. I mean, you can want to have it and say, I want all of this. However, especially if you're running your own business, which is different than somebody that's working a job, because on a job, you put in your 30 or 40 hours a week that you're putting in. While you're running a business, if you work, in many cases, especially when you're just starting up, if you work 60 hours a week, you're cheating yourself. You should be working more. And 60, 70, 80 hours is the norm. So things will get sacrificed when you're running a business, and you have to weigh that into your own equation. Is it worth that? Like, for an example, if I'm talking to a woman that says she's a single mom and she's got 2 small kids, there's a good chance that she's going to have to not, she's going to be sacrificing her time with her kids or her husband even, in running that business. So things do get sacrificed, and you do have to weigh that, the overall ramifications on that. Because the worst thing that can happen is a divorce happens, or, oh my gosh, I missed my kids growing up, and then that's invaluable. So you have to be willing to make those kinds of sacrifices, but still be aware that you can still, if you can't hire somebody else to do stuff, then that way you can start moving yourself away from all the day-to-day grind on your business.
What is the first thing when somebody comes to you? Do you have, first of all, clients that come to you that they know they want to do something else, but they don't know what?
Yes, that is all about, because we'll go into areas of where their passion is, and that's because if you're starting a business that you're not passionate about, then you're just creating yourself another job. I mean, you become what's basically is called self-employed, where you're the employer, and you're probably the dictator employer as well. So you're, so because you say, well, I didn't get this thing done, and you're beating yourself up, or you're taking time away from your family and other things for your business. So the thing is, you have to discover what your passion is. And if you're really passionate about something, then I feel that you probably can build a business around that. I mean, your passion could be meditation. Fantastic. Why don't you become a meditation leader? Now, you have meditation classes. Maybe you learn Reiki. Maybe you do yoga. Maybe you do, whatever it is. But build your, whatever you're passionate about, build your business around that. Because if you've got a passion for it, somebody will be willing to pay for it,
Yes.
especially if you're the expert.
Yes. And what I typically don't coach people on business, but of course I have a lot of people coming to me, and some of my friends even come to me with business related questions. And for me, it always go back to like you were saying, the core of who you are. And for me, self-care and going from your authentic self and not from the noise that you hear from outside. And sometimes people come, they don't even know what their passion is. So if someone starts a business without knowing their passions, do you have a way to help them change route and to see what would be the best for them to do?
Well, the first off is, if they've already started a business, then one of my questions I like to ask people when they're, say, a new or even a somewhat experienced entrepreneur is, I ask them, what is your favorite day of the week, and what is your favorite time of that day? And if most job workers, they say, well, Friday at 5 o'clock is their favorite time because they get to go home, then I say, you're not doing your passion. If your favorite time of the day is 9 a.m. Monday morning, then you love what you're doing.
Oh, wow.
So that's, I mean, that if going to work doesn't excite you, then you're not passionate about it.
Yeah.
So you,
Yeah.
and there's so many different exercises that you can do. One exercise that I learned a few years ago, and I actually still practice it today, is an exercise known as free writing. Do you know what free writing is?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll still explain it just in case your listeners don't. And a free writing exercise is essentially as you get a pen, you get some paper, and then it doesn't matter if you believe in God, Allah, doesn't really matter, or even if you're
Oh,
just
yes.
saying you're just talking to yourself, is you write down a question, you write it down. And I usually like to, at the very top of the page, say the letter M or me, and then I'll say G for God or G for
Yeah.
whatever. So it's kind of like a dialogue. So I write down me, colon, and then I write out a question, and then I allow myself, God going through me, my subconscious mind going through, whatever it is, and you start answering those questions, and you just keep going and going and going. The first time I did this, I could think I got 10 pages of regular legal, legal pad paper of answers. It took me about 45 minutes to do that, and that actually is how my whole coaching just started, was doing that free writing exercise. Now, there's another thing that you can do, and I don't think I see you wearing a necklace, but if you get a necklace and it has a weight on it, and what you do is it's kind of like as a pendulum, you hold it very, very slowly, and you start off by asking, you have to ask two questions. You always start off every exercise by asking these two questions. You ask, show me a yes response. And if it doesn't really move very much, remember, this is a pendulum, not a pen, but a pendulum. And for me, whenever I do it, my yes response, it goes from like 7 o'clock to 1 o'clock. It goes that way. And then I say, show me a no response. And if it doesn't move that much, you ask it to amplify. My no response is usually just counterclockwise. Sometimes the counterclockwise is so minute, it actually looks like a yes, because there's just barely moving counterclockwise. And so I have to ask, if I can't tell the difference, please amplify. Then it will say yes or no.
Yes.
So that's another way of getting to know your core self.
Yeah.
Now, at the time of this recording, about a week before, maybe a week and a half before this recording, I did a pendulum exercise, because they can only give you yes and no responses. They can't ask you to explain. And then immediately afterward, I put the pendulum down and I went right into a free writing exercise. And I got like 3 pages of things in there. And one of the questions I did ask was, are you the same person answering this question? And because is this person different from the free writing? And the answer I got was yes, it was the same person. So the subconscious mind is either going through my hand by writing or going through the pendulum. So those are just 2 exercises anybody can do.
That's very powerful. I teach my clients not the dowsing, but the yes and no in your body, because you have this response in your body. It's very subtle. And I use it myself when I go for a question that is really important. I know that my yes is here and my no is in my sternum. And I feel it in my body, because we are in conversation with the infinite intelligence that is in us at all times. And it's really powerful, like the free writing or inner dialogues too. I teach people to name the different parts of themselves, and they dialogue with each other. And we have all the answers if we know how to access them. That's really, really powerful. So
Yes.
your coaching is also very spiritual at the same time.
It can be, because again, all of this came because I started taking personal growth and personal development courses. Now, I'd like doing business is because I want to see people succeed financially, and where they, and once they get their finances in order, they're usually at a higher level of peace, and then they can do the other things. They can go on those trips. They can do excursions. They can do more family stuff, and that's why I focus on the business side, because I just see so many people out there that are. I mean, I think the statistic is 75% of the people, and I'm going to say in America, don't like what they do.
Yeah, yeah,
So.
that's sad. That's very sad.
And if you don't like what you do, and that's at least a third of your life, your awake time, a third, a half of your awake time is doing your job or getting ready to go to your job or the commute to and from work. that is a major portion of your life. So if you work 8 hours a day and you sleep 8 hours a day, and this assumes Saturday and Sunday, you don't know. That's where the 1/3 and 1/2 comes in. But we're also talking about commute time. So let's say you've got another 2 hours, 5 days a week, and that will add up to the Saturday and Sunday, being your other 8 hours. So half of your awake life is focused on your work,
Yes.
assuming you don't do overtime. So,
Yeah.
so
we do overtime.
well, and being an entrepreneur, you're going to do a lot of overtime. However, if most of your awake time is spent on work and that's miserable, how is that going to affect your home life?
And your health, because if you're not
your health.
It's going to affect your health, and your life is going to be shortened too. So that's even worse. And what I would add, because I hear people saying, well, I need to put the bread on my table, I can't leave my job. I'm a single mom. I still have a job, and I'm transitioning to full-time coaching. You can start with small steps. Do you have people some of your clients have done that?
Absolutely, because there's quite a few people that come to me that they don't know what they want to do. They're working that full-time job. My ideal client is somebody that's kind of hit the glass ceiling. They're kind of tired of what they're doing. And then even when I created my podcast, Life's a Little Lesson, the first season, which was just on personal growth, the second season, which started in October 2017, is on entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So my ideal client when I was creating my original podcast was a female that was a manager. She was in charge of a few people. And this is the ideal client because I'm envisioning this. She's hit a glass ceilings where she's at. She makes decent income. She's tired of what she's doing. She wants to start her own business. She doesn't know what. She has 2 kids and a husband, and the kids are, that 10 to 12-year-old range, and the husband travels a lot. So she's not only being the wife, but sometimes she's a full-time mom because he's gone a lot. So does she have all kinds of issues that's keeping her from starting a business? Of course she does. That she doesn't have that time in the day. She doesn't have all these other things. However, once you start getting it started, like what you're doing, like you're just starting with your coaching business, you take on that first client. Okay, that's an hour a week. Maybe do 2 more, 3 more hours of a podcast or creating programs or whatever it is, and then you just let it slowly build and build and build. And if you don't give up, it's kind of like a big snowball. A little snowball could turn into a huge avalanche after some momentum, after time and momentum. So and my goal is for you to be that avalanche in your own successes.
Yeah, and it's really like I always compare it to starting a bike. At the beginning, it's harder, but once you have the momentum, it's becoming easier. I know with my own business, I experienced that because you start, first of all, from one client who gives you a referral to another client. You start establishing a network also of people who know you and who know your work. And because I also work with energy, I'm also a Reiki practitioner. I know that when you align yourself with that energy, things come out of the blue. So miracles are possible. If somebody comes to you and they don't know anything about business, can they still come to you, or do they have to learn first some kind of how to develop a business plan, or will you guide them into where to find the resources to do that?
If that's what they're looking for, because you can always, every single city, including Las Vegas here, and I'm going to just assume when I say every city, I'm talking about America. Yes. Every single city in the U.S. has a small business association. And even if you need to get started there with writing up a marketing plan or a business plan, if that's the route you want to go, you should have a business plan. Not everybody does, but you should. And they have the Small Business Association. They also have, most of those SBAs have a sub-organization known as SCORE, which is, they can get some finances and financial help there. My goal is more along them because I don't go to say this is how you set up an LLC versus a C corp or an S corp. You may need to learn a little bit about that, but that's not really the scope of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to have them put together processes, get them taking those baby steps, getting that confidence built up. Just like I've got an interview with a gentleman later on this week that he has about 200 different ideas that he's very scattered in what he wants to do. So my goal to him was, when we sit down for our initial consultation session, is to get focused on, like, what are your top three? And then then you have to figure out, is it a viable business?
Yeah.
I mean, are there going to be legalities in it? Because one of the ideas that he had was that was to a food preparation business where you put your medical, your medical pills that you want to do inside the food. And the first thing I looked at is like, if the wife ate the husband's food, is that going to be a legal issue that they could come against? So you want to make sure that it's not only a viable business, but that you're also protecting yourself from any kind of potential litigation. So those are things you kind of have to think about. And that's why I love what I do, because the name of my company is called Plentiful Perspectives. And it's all about, okay, here's an idea. Let's look at it from this angle. Let's look at it from angle B, angle C, angle D. You know, look at it these different angles. And if it's still a viable solution, then okay, let's get the ball rolling and test market it. Is somebody going to actually buy stuff from you?
It's so important to have somebody like you, because sometimes in our head everything kind of makes sense, but if we don't have a sounding board or a mirror to tell us, wait a minute, what about that? And because our brain can trick us in so many ways, so you play a very important role into really sorting out and bringing clarity. And the focus part, I know what you mean, because I also have 20,000 ideas at any time. And I had to really teach myself to focus on one or two. Otherwise, I was wasting my time, because nothing would be complete at any point. I would never have started.
Well, exactly. It'd be like spinning 10 plates on a stick. You know, you're constantly running around trying to keep the balance going on, and it's going to completely wear you out, and then eventually everything's going to crumble, everything's going to fall. But if you only focus on one or two, then you can really build from there. You can build that momentum from there. So exactly right. And what I like what I do is, I mean, as an example, at the time of this recording yesterday, I went to a mastermind meeting, and people were throwing out ideas on a business, and somebody says, well, I've got this idea where I can be the emergency contact for my clients, so they can be, they could call me at any time. It's like, and I was listening to her saying all this, and everybody's like, oh yeah, this would be great, because if I was having troubles, I'm on this diet that I'm on and I want to eat this food, I could just give you a call. She goes, absolutely. I go, that's a horrible idea. Because from the client's perspective, say, Mary, if you were the client, that's great for you as the client. But for me as the coach, that means I'm on 24/7. Yes. If you have this eating thing, because it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I have to be able to answer your call. Like, that is absolutely horrible idea. Do you see the other side of that coin? Yes. And she was supposed to really get excited about that until I say, no, look at it from the coach's perspective. That is horrible. What if you got two people calling you at the same time? How many clients can you take on realistically? 3, 4 at most, not 20 or 30 that you, like, no, don't do that.
Unless you take like $50,000 per client and you live
yes.
on an island or somewhere. But yeah, and that's what people would do with businesses. Sometimes they are so concentrating on how to grow their business. I create my life and my business in it. So my vision is for my life more first, and then my business in it. Because otherwise you can get to that kind of situations. And so I'm glad they had you there to tell them, no, don't do that.
Well, because every time I hear something, I always, my natural instinct is to how many different angles can I see this? Yes. I'm going to give you a story, and this is a great. And this is a cool little segue. I'm going to give you an example, and then I want you to answer, and those of you that are out there listening or watching us, to think about it as well. So I'm going to give you a scene. I'm just going to give you the facts, and you're going to tell me the story, because we all put stories on everything that occurs to us, and your story is going to be based upon all of your past life experiences, because you and I could see exactly the same thing, and we had completely different interpretations of the story. So I want to give you an image. You're going to see a car. It's stationary, driver's windows down. There's a man behind the driver's seat. I'm going to pan out a little bit. In front of the car is a bicycle laying on its side, and a little bit in front of that is a kid lying on the ground. What happened?
Well, my first instinct, well, I have two ideas at one time. The
Okay.
first is like he knocked the kid down, and
So the car hit the bicycle.
The other one was completely like a story that is completely like could be in a book or something. The father is in the car, they're waiting for something, and he's taking a nap, and the kid is taking a nap because somebody else is supposed to come. I don't know, I just gave you what came into my mind.
Exactly. So because I did give you enough facts. Now, when I was first told this story, the two most common things that people say, I came up with five scenarios instantly. Bam. Story number one was the car hit the bicycle. That's the most common one.
Yes.
The second one was the bicycle hit the car. The car was stationary, the bicycle. So those are the two most common. Well, I haven't really talked to you about this. However, I used to do stunt work back when I lived in North Carolina. So to me, this was a movie set of a car where a bicycle pretended to hit the bicycle, and the stunt person fell off the bicycle. So story number 4 was that this is a print ad. Now you've got stationary cameras about the dangers of texting and driving. So this is all staged. Story number 5 is a car hit the bicycle, sped off, and the second car came up and stopped to see if the kid was okay. And you came up with even a 6th. I mean, there's so many scenarios.
It's infinite.
and nobody would have thought about the stunt thing because that was my background has some stunts in it, so therefore that would be an interpretation that I would have on it.
From the fact that I invent children's stories since I was little, so I always have this kind of stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all, we have the different glasses, so we see through our own glasses.
Mm-hmm. And your glasses won't fit on me, and mine won't fit on you.
True. And so how do you resolve that when you coach someone and you try to identify, or maybe you don't try to identify their glasses? Do you try to see what they're seeing, or do you go completely from a distance and say, that's how I see it and I'm neutral?
I try to look at everything from multiple perspectives, and that's just me, because and even I need sounding boards of people telling me things, because I'm stuck in my own head. So I will only see what's going on just based upon my own interpretations. So when somebody's explained to me an idea that they want to do, I said, well, let's look at this from another angle. Let's look at it from a client's angle. Let's look at it from your angle. Let's look at it from an advertiser's angle. Let's look at it from an illegal angle. Let's look at it, and if everything lines up and it looks good from all those different angles, then let's proceed with it. Because this is like that one lady saying, I would be at everybody's mercy, coach. It sounds great from the client's perspective. That's an amazing idea. I could sell like hotcakes, but it's not good from the coach's angle. Yes. And logistically, it doesn't work.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And to go back to that story, there is something that is a priority for me in my coaching, in my life, and it's self-love and self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where everything stems from. But my definition of self-love is very broad, and usually people do not even know how to approach it, because it can be taken through so many angles, and you're the different angles. So we're going to get your angle on that. What is your definition of self-love?
To me, self-love is just, being happy with who you are. I mean, you may not always have exactly what you want. I mean, you may not be financially where you want to be, may not be health-wise where you want to be. However, you do need to be okay with who you are. And self-love to me stems from that. Is that I'm not saying don't strive to do something different, but you still have to love who you are. You have to be okay with who you are personally. So that's my very broad definition
Yes,
of
yes,
that.
that resonates absolutely. And how do you implement that? How do you practice that in your life? Do you have, like some people have, I have meditation, for example, it's one of my self-love practices. Do you have some self-love practices in your life that you absolutely make sure you do on a regular basis?
Actually, yes. There's a few things that I do. One is one of the things I love to do. It's kind of a form of meditation. Is yoga. And I prefer the hot yoga variety. So it's also a fitness aspect to it as well. And so when I'm taking the classes, and I right now I'm going to different studios. I'm checking out different studios. Just I do a month of this one, month of that one. And the only reason I'm doing that is to have the variety.
Yes.
Because I was at one studio for 2.5 years, and after a while it kind of got stale. So now I go to this other studio. Like I may see one of the similar instructors there, but it's a whole different, it's a whole new environment. So that why I'm saying that is for me, it's not only doing the yoga, but it's also the visual stimulation and being in different environments all the time, having that little bit of change. That's just, that little bit of mystery, you could even say.
Yes.
Another thing I'd often like to do is going out for, I do a lot of hiking out here in Las Vegas. And yes, you can go hiking in Las Vegas.
Yes, especially
um,
now is the time.
Oh, it's beautiful out there. Yeah, I don't know if you know what the time of the year it is at the time this thing is being broadcasted, but this is right now. Do you mind if I share with the audience when we are?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, right now we're in the middle of November 2017. You may be listening to this in 2018 or 2019, but right now we're in November, and it's absolutely gorgeous outside right now. It's not too hot, and it gets very hot here in Vegas, and it's not really cold yet. So it's right at that perfect temperature.
It's gorgeous. It's a perfect time to go hiking. Actually, I'm going to go hiking this afternoon. So,
Well, and another thing I like to do, I've not done much of it this year, and yes, you could do this in Vegas too, and people are so surprised when I tell them I could do this, is to actually go sailing.
okay, where do you go sailing? Now I'm curious because I go to Willow Beach to do some canoe and stuff like this. But
Well, in Las Vegas, most people don't realize they forget. Well, just outside of Las Vegas is this thing called Hoover Dam. And Hoover Dam stops the water that's in what the largest man-made lake in North America is a lake called Lake Mead.
oh
And
yeah,
Lake Mead has sailboats.
of course, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Most people do,
Yes,
even locals.
I don't go on Lake Mead that often. Yeah, true. I go a little bit further.
Okay.
Um, how did self-love help you in your business, like doing all those practices that you do? How does it help you in building your business and making it successful?
Well, because if you're okay with yourself, if you love yourself, then you're going to be able to be more confident and be more able to in business to do more. And a lot of my self-love pretty much came to me in 2010 when I started taking live personal development courses. And there's so many of them out there. I mean, I personally would recommend that I've gone through is known as PSI seminars, and there's another one that's now called Success Resources. And I've met a few other people during those classes as well. Now, of course, there's Choice, there's Landmark, there's a whole number of other courses out there, and then there's always coaches out there that have live webinars and have live events. And I would say, take yourself to those classes. If some of them are going to require you a fee to go to them. Most of them will a fee to go to them. However, immerse yourself into live classes. I'm not going to knock taking online courses because I do online courses as well. And however, it's when you're in that live atmosphere, you're around other people that are also doing similar kind of work. They're going through the same experiences that you're going through, and that's how you build those relationships. Both of my best friends, Nicole and Junita, I met at Nicole was at PSI seminars, and Junita was at that time it was called Peak Potentials. It's now called Success Resources. We met in those classes, and Nicole and I became best friends almost within 24 hours of meeting each other. And Junita and I, it took us like maybe 2 days before we became like best friends. Like, I look at both of them as my sisters, and it was because we're both going on along a similar journey. So,
and I see, so my way of explaining to people why they need live and maybe on the web is that live, you feel the energy of the group, you make the connections, because I've done some of Tony Robbins a long time ago, like the 4-day seminar where I connected with people. Then I did some Louise Hay, a lot of Louise Hay, because I loved her. I still do. And so there you're immersed in the group energy, and that creates some kind of a shift too. But when you get out of there, you're pumped up, you're so well. You need something to keep you going long term. And that's where the web classes, online classes come in the picture, because you need to be with other people to not lose that momentum and that energy that you're just building in you. I've seen so many people. I've done some seminars where you go for 2 or 3 days and you feel so great. And then I see those people 6 months or a year later, and they went back directly to where they were, because our brain is still wired a certain way, and you need to train it to start rewiring in a different way so that you change deeply. So that you're right, both are very, very important.
Right, absolutely. And like I said, when I went to the live classes, and I met, let's say, Junita, we became close friends, and now we're also each other's accountability partner. So every Tuesday at 5 o'clock, and she lives in Canada. Both of us have the plan where we could call Canada for an extra $5 a month. It'd be unlimited calls there. So we'll call each other, and we will talk for literally an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, and it's okay. This is what I said I was going to do this week. This is what I got done, and having that is huge. Now, we went to a class. I went to another class in April of this year, of 2017, in Phoenix, Arizona, and it was through a guy by the name of Jeff Walker, and he has a thing called a product launch formula.
Yes.
And that was the 3 or 4 day class that we were at there. And then both of us, okay, what kind of launches are we going to do? And so right now, if I didn't have her in my life, literally, I would be somewhere so far different. Only because, like you said, most people, when they go to a live event, when they get home, they may be on a high for 7, 9, 10 days, whatever it is. But then their lives takes back over again, because they're still surrounded in the same energy, the same environment, the same people. However, if you start surrounding yourself with, say you go to a live event, let's say here in Las Vegas, there's PSI Seminars does have an office here in Las Vegas, and if you were to take that class, their basic level class, and you stay connected with some of your classmates or even some of the people that are volunteer staffing, then, in my opinion, you're now surrounding yourself with a different energy, and therefore you can actually have a more prolonged, if not lifelong, change. I know for me, after doing it in February, I took the more advanced class in April. In May of 2010 is when this is the first week of May, and I was staffing my first time staffing one of their classes, as volunteer, is when I decided to do that 90-day. I had a 90-day goal of losing 70 pounds. And I literally, because I was using a thing called a SMART formula, or I call it Smarty, I had an extra Y on it. I was using that, and I did not achieve my goal. Instead of losing I did not lose 70 pounds in those 90 days. I only lost 60 pounds in 90 days. And that was life changing. I went from 240 to 180. I'm right now right around 190. So that's been for 7 years. So I was in the mid 200s for years, and then after a course of 3 months, I got down to 180, 190, and I've been able to maintain that. Now, if I didn't have these kinds of tools in my life, I think about where would I be if I did not go on that journey. If I did not take that course or the advanced course or did not volunteer staff, then my life would be completely different because of that. And it's because of people who I surround myself with. Now, one of the challenges I'm having now is that whenever I staff one of these classes, they say, well, bring a student or bring a new student to the class, to take the class. And I think about, it's like, who do I know that doesn't already have done this work? Everybody I hang out with are people that
Yes.
are doing the work. So it's like, it's hard for me to figure out other people that don't do the work. So, because here's, I'm starting to be going off on a tangent here, but when I wrote my book, Designing Your Own Destiny, I don't know if you wrote in a book. When I was writing that, was that?
I just
You have? Okay. Okay. When I was telling people I was going to write my own book, or let's say your listeners out there say, I want to become an entrepreneur.
Yes.
If your friends don't support you, 100% support you, then you got to question, why are they your friends? If I was going to say, hey, I'm going to be writing this book, I'm going to take me a year of my life and I'm going to be writing this book, and if my friends said, what do you know about writing, or they're doing that, it's like, why are you hanging out with those people? But people that I hang out with, they'll say, if you want to write a book, and they'll say, well, they may say, well, once you get your first draft done, let me read it so I can give you a testimonial. That's what my friends would say.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different kind of a mindset. So you do need to be aware of who you hang out with, and that's going to affect your self-love as well. Because if you're around the positive, motivated people, that's going to affect your own your own energies. And I know it's kind of a tangent that I went off on, but that's how all of that works.
Yes, because they say we become the average of the 5 people we surround ourselves with. So we have to be picky about who is in our life. And I know for me, self-love that will be my compass to know who I let in or not. That's my compass. Now at this point of my life, I love myself enough to say, you know what, this one, I don't want to engage because I don't like this or that. I mean, I don't judge them, but I don't want them in my life because it's crucial to be surrounded and supported by the people around you. And sometimes your family doesn't quite understand, but that's not the same thing. They are your family. So what I tell people is like, don't share your dreams with somebody who's going to crush it. Just keep it for yourself, share it with your friends. You don't have to share it with everybody because I speak a lot about energy. I speak a lot about attraction. I'm a Reiki practitioner, so not everybody's understanding that. And some people actually joke about it. Those are not the kind of people I want to share it with.
I mean, certain things I would agree with and certain things I would not, because when I was doing my weight loss challenge, I shared it with everybody at that time. And I actually tell people this, which is kind of the opposite of what you're saying, but this is only in my specific scenario. I said I wanted to lose the 70 pounds in 90 days. So the very first thing I did was I got onto Facebook. This is 2010. Got onto Facebook. I had 660 friends on there, and I said, "This is day 1 of 90." And I'm going, this is my goal. Now I've got 600 people holding me accountable. And somebody says, well, no, I don't want to do that. Then I said, well, how committed are you? But you have to be careful what you share with other people. Yes. I do agree with that.
Because maybe weight loss is easier because everybody can conceive losing weight. But when you talk about building a business where you're going to be an international coach and you have a certain amount of money that you want to make, if the people you share it with are not at a level where they can even accept that for themselves, they're going to project all their fears on you. And I don't want that. So.
Well, and an example of that I've also heard, and I don't. This is nothing to do with Donald Trump or whomever. However, they would say, look at every single president. What do they look like the day 1 of their office and the last day in office? Most of them have aged a lot more during just the 4 or 8 years that they were in reign, and a lot of it is because what is the energy of the world as they're focusing on that person. Like, for an example, a lot of people hated Obama. A lot of people hate Trump. Now the energy is, you got all this thing going to being directed to that person. Is that doing that person any good? So I get what you're talking about with those energies, and I'm just using an extreme case as an example.
If people want to learn about what you're doing or maybe ask you questions, where can they find you? And I'll put that in the description as well.
They just find me online. I do have my own website, and it is just my name, which is www.Kevin, the letter A, Dunlap, so kevinadunlap.com. My contact information is on there. They can also, if they want to contact me for a free coaching consultation, I'll give them my short code for my so they can contact me. So what you want to do is you want to open up your text browser, and in the number where you send it to. So you want to send it to 40691. So if you've got an iPhone, it may have a dash in there. You may have to turn that off because it may not work on iPhones. But for the 40691, and in the body, you type in Kevin A. Dunlap. And actually, you could do that, or type in the word podcast, and that way you'll be on my list, and I'll be able to contact you for a consultation. So kevinadunlap.com, or type in podcast to 40691.
Perfect. I want to thank you, Kevin, for accepting to be in my podcast today. That was a pleasure. It was very interesting conversation. If there was one little advice, one gem that you wanted to leave our listeners with, maybe the most important thing, what would you tell them?
Oh, there's a quote that Zig Ziglar said, and I don't know exactly what he was referencing, but I love this quote, and it's on a lot of my material. And the quote is, "If you can dream it, you can achieve it." So whatever it is that you have in your mind, if you are not, or if you're persistent, you will get what you want. It could be self-love, it could be business, it could be that relationship, it could be whatever. But if you can dream it, you can achieve it.
Yes, and a good example of that for me is Apple. I mean,
yes,
where they are today.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Kevin. For our listeners, we'll be there with the next episode, probably in another month. I really encourage you to go for your dreams. If you need help, like people like Kevin, reach out to them, because we have one life only. And as we said, it goes really fast. You want to really, really live it to 110%. Have a wonderful life, and I'll see you next time.
Bye.
For questions or to apply for an interview, visit datelikeafrenchwoman.com.